Supreme Court of Australia. I would, in the young days when I was a speaker, would never like to come to speak after such a nice speech having been delivered by somebody. Justice Mansoor Ali Shah, in fact, has stolen the show today. I had always been a great admirer of his eloquence and extempore delivery and discourse, but today he has been at his best. Perhaps the most important reason being that he was possessed with so much information to share with you. Unfortunately, Mansoor and Asha caught me during those days when I myself was very busy and very tight. Believe you me, my thinking is confined to so many other issues which didn't give me much time to think about the present occasion, and I couldn't gather and garner that information which I intend to share with you. But one thing, let me apprise you about that being lucky, we are governed by a written constitution. This written constitution enshrines the fundamental rights. And if we look at the relevant chapter, those fundamental rights make no discrimination between a male or a female. Rather, if we go by the last two fundamental rights, in fact, privilege has been conferred upon the female gender. We are again lucky that per the provisions of Article 4 of the Constitution of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, every citizen, regardless of the gender, is to be treated in accordance with law. And also we have an amendment in the Constitution, which is Article 10A, which speaks about the due process of law imparted to both the female, the male. I have written some points about what I had to say over here. But yet, I will apprise you that theoretically speaking, from the last conference which I attended, and perhaps I was the chief guest at that time, being the senior puisne, and today, when I'm standing here as the Chief of Pakistan, Chief Justice of Pakistan, there seems to be a very important and vital and significant and improved situation. The challenges which were depicted, which were spoken about at that point of time, I think to most of an extent, those on paper have at least been attended to. What is the ground reality? I'm not yet sure, because the decisions coming out of those special forums and courts constituted, the quality of the opinions before the Supreme Court have not yet reached. I'm not sure that we have only catered with the delays by creation of the model courts, or whether we have also improved the quality for the dispensation of justice. Justice hurried is justice buried. If appropriate chance, if appropriate opportunity is not provided to someone to plead and propound his case, and only we are interested in the figures and the disposal, I don't think and I don't believe that this would be the best quality of justice, which in a fact, in a way, is the topic of the today, improving access to justice. Regardless, notwithstanding, non-obstante clause adding to it, that it is to a female or to a male. We have always done our best, and this has been our passion, this has been our motto, and this has also been our culture. Unfortunately, yes, in some rustic society there may be a situation where the women are not treated as well as they should be. But in the cities, and experiencing from my colleagues and my own house, I feel that women are quite dominant and quite. So to call them that they are the downtrodden part of the society may not be as true as is being depicted through media. However, there are issues which are sensitive to the gender. And we should also be looking forward to make changes, appropriate changes in law for the purposes of catering those issues, as was pointed out by my Chief Justice Lahore High Court, that environment must be created for such kind of cases in the courts, where without any fear or shyness, the victims, particularly the female and the children, they are given a chance and are provided with an opportunity to speak their heart out. So this is general what I intended to talk about, the ADR system which has been highlighted. I believe it shall deliver well in future. I'm not sure about today, because some of the cases which even are coming out of the ADR, yet there are challenges to those in the courts of law, sometime under the rules of bias, sometime under the rule of coercion, pressure, intimidation, or that we did not consent to it, or that our lawyer or our representative or authorized person did not have the authority in a way to concede to this aspect of the matter. But we are at a very initial stage. Time will prove whether we are successful in the system. But to me, in the given circumstances, ADR seems to be the only, let me be very loud and very clear about, the only solution for the purposes of catering the delays, and only resolution from emancipating in a way from the people, those who are embroiled in this intricate kind of litigation which take ages. I know my one comment may become a highlight in the media tomorrow, but at least I can make an admission that we are not with the same pace, working on the same pace as is required for the disposal of the cases. So these model courts, if those are not at the cost of delaying the ordinary litigation, and in a way is providing a privilege to a privileged class or a privileged kind of people, I think this idea of model courts is a good idea and should be brought and be made placed everywhere in every nature of cases. This is the need of the day. At the same time, let me share with you, almost all of you belongs to the judiciary. I am also part of the judiciary. And every time when I've met you, I've always expressed one opinion, and that is there is no difference between a civil judge third class and a judge of the Supreme Court. Both are meant for the purposes of dispensation of justice. You are required to do justice according to law. I am required to do justice according to law. No one has the power and authority while dispensing justice to do it according to his own whim, wish, caprice, and in an arbitrary manner. Please keep it in mind whenever you decide a case, being that of a male, being that of a female, be that of a sensitive nature, be that of an insensitive nature, that your adherence to law is one of the most foundational aspects of dispensation of justice, and without following that, I don't think that justice can be done. This is the most important thing. And being a father of the institution, I'm sitting at my own home with my own children. Let me make a comment. Let me make a comment that the most important thing for a judge is to know thy law. Otherwise, you would not be able to do justice according to law. How many judges they read the law before deciding a matter? And I am speaking about the judiciary at all the levels. Our own notions, our own ideas of justice, our own bias sometimes overpower the rule of law, the law itself, and that is where some confusion, that is where some amiss, that is where some wrong is committed, which leads a litigant to such a trouble that if a wrong has been committed at the level of a civil judge, he has to go up to the Supreme Court, and it takes years for him to have a small point of law decided. I give you an example. If there is an application for amendment of a pleading, and that application is not decided as per the law which is there clearly, Order 6, Rule 17. The revision is also dismissed, and the writ in the High Court is said to be not competent because the law doesn't provide for an appeal, and therefore the High Court would not have authority in the constitutional jurisdiction. The matter comes to the Supreme Court, leave is granted. Do you know how much time it will consume to decide that matter? And during all this period, the matter would remain pending. And even if decided, it might have to go back on account of remand. The point, therefore, I am emphasizing to all of my brothers and sisters sitting over here from the judiciary, please learn law. Please apply law. To draw the factual conclusions on the basis of the evidence coming before you is your prerogative. But you cannot draw a conclusion by misreading or non-reading of the evidence. You have to adhere to it. But to misapply the law or not to apply the law, unfortunately, cannot be spared and cannot be compromised. Access to justice means proper dispensation of justice in accordance with law. And that is the true spirit of Article 4, as I started on earlier. There was a case in 1970 in which it was held that a judge has the authority, jurisdiction, he has the authority to decide it rightly or wrongly. This notion, this jurisprudence stands changed altogether, and 1987 in Utility Store Corporation's case, and then 2013. No judge has the authority to decide a case wrongly, at least which is not in consonance with law. And therefore, before the beginning of my written discourse, I will plead to you all, irrespective of the nature of case coming before you, you have to go deep into the law, decide the matter in accordance with law, and that is where we are doing service to the litigant public who are unfortunately, and this litigation I normally say is a menace. It's a disease. It's a bimari. Just like anybody gets unwell, he has to be treated. You know how miserable he would be? You know how miserable a litigant would feel when every day he has to go to the court of law and a parchi is given to him that the case has been adjourned for one good or bad reason. This delay is causing how much anxiety, how much problem, and how much difficulty to a litigant who is on the right. So therefore, as a judges who are responsible for dispensing justice, it is our duty not only to do justice in accordance with law, but to provide justice expeditiously without any undue delays. The creation of model courts is a very good idea, but my lord, my brother, Mr. Mansoor Shah would agree to it, that we have picked the cases, we have picked the areas where, and we have taken away other work from all those judges. Where is the other work? Is that suffering, or is that also proceeding on the same speed or not? So this is what I mean to say, that we need to create a system, we need to create environment in which, notwithstanding the model courts are not standing the special courts, every litigant must get justice speedily in accordance with law and in a given time frame. And I've been begging upon, Madam Nasra Iqbal is sitting over here, I beg her, I beg all the seniors who has given their life to this profession, those who are retired, please come forward, provide me with the ideas, make some reforms so that we can, for our future, for our posterity, we must give them some, even if we are not able to resolve this to the extent of 100%, at least at this time and stage we can lay down the foundation on which the building of expeditious and lawful justice system can be built upon. This is my passion. This is what I always wanted to speak to you. Shah Sahab, everything discussed over here, every idea which has been brought to us by our foreign friends, undoubtedly is a time-tested ideas. They have worked very well. We have also discussed those, and you have also started laying down the foundation. But are we sure that on the basis of this, by a collective effort from all and sundry, until and unless there is a passion behind that, a will to do, whether we would be able to achieve the objects what we have? Whether by just simply providing facilities to the honorable judges, are we able to have the quality of the justice from them even? I remember I was reading few days, maybe few months ago, a judgment written by a Sikh judge, a third class or a second class Sikh judge, which was written, I believe, I think in 1937 or maybe 40s. Believe you me, it's a handwritten judgment, and there is only one correction made, and it makes sense. And today, when certain judgments come before me, I have to read it time and again. And I was telling my friends day before yesterday, at this time and age and with my experience, I am finding the difficulty to comprehend the judgment as to what this judgment talks about. Sir, this is also what we have to look into. This is what is important, that while dispensing justice, while doing justice, our quality should be on the basis of the law. We should not lose sight of the law. And if we do that, the repercussions, the consequences which I have earlier apprised you shall follow. And then I don't find that any of these steps which we have taken would in a way be contributing to the improvement of our system. This is what we require today. Whereas it's my privilege to make the keynote speech at the second conference of the women judges. I had the opportunity of addressing judges at the first conference, where I was able to share my views and experience with respect to the working of female judges. I'm happy to hear about the efforts and the progress made for our women judges since then. Let me start by congratulating the High Court, the Punjab Judicial Academy, for putting together this conference and for highlighting the important issues, gender sensitization and gender-based violent crimes. I want to appreciate the efforts made in conducting courses and workshops on gender sensitization, a subject we all need to become conversant with. I would also share their knowledge and experiences on this issue. Sharing knowledge and experience is a part of the process of learning and improving ourselves. So I'm confident that all attending this conference has benefited from the rich experiences shared by the international judges on their effort to create gender equality and deal with gender-based violent crimes. Although I did not get the benefit of attending all the sessions of the conference, nonetheless, I have been informed of the deliberations and the discussions and believe that we must tune ourselves with the need of those who access the court for justice. I am delighted to see that constructive and useful recommendations have come out of this conference, and I am pleased with the prompt response by the Chief Justice of the Lahore High Court, and I was very impressed with the promptness you have exhibited today. Judges must continue to play their part in improving the court environment, in controlling the court and in pace the life of cases in order to render justice in its true sense. Having said that, let me reaffirm that I have full faith in my judges and acknowledge their struggle to deliver justice and uphold the dignity of the institution. Each one of us present today shares strong commitment and responsibility in the dispensation of justice. As a judge of our respective courts, we uphold the rule of law and render justice in given circumstances. In my 19 years or more on the bench, it has been my experience that we cannot take the rule of law for granted. It requires constant strengthening. The implementation and enforcement of rule of law is a condition on the sensitivity of the judicial system and its ability to respond to all situations in which justice must be delivered. Therefore, as judges, we are all obliged to protect and facilitate the right to access to justice sector, and we are duty-bound to provide timely decisions. In this context, I am happy to see a gathering of judges deliberating and discussing how to improve the system, especially for those who are vulnerable and may require protection or special facilities in order to ensure that justice is delivered to them. I am particularly pleased by the initiative taken by the women in the judiciary who have shown their commitment to equal justice and the rule of law. Let me tell you, in my experience building bridge amongst judges from all around the world is in furtherance of your cause to improve access to justice. The fact that this is a conference for the women judges in no way means that it is limited to women dealing with issues faced by other women. What it means to me is that the judges have highlighted the need to the gender sensitive in order to ensure equality before the law. The fact that the judges happen to be the women in no way lessens the effect of the gender inequality and the treatment of victims in gender-based cases. I am a big believer in the gender equality and believe that gender sensitization must start at home. We are all products of our environment, which includes our homes. We cannot change the past, but we certainly can work together improving the future. To achieve this, some must change their thinking, and we must accept the change is always a good thing. As judge, we should be ready to respond to the needs of the litigant in order to ensure that the justice is delivered. Crime against women are on the rise, and it is time to take a hard look at the reasons that leads to the gender-based violent crimes. Honor killing, child marriages, forced marriages offends the very basic right given to the women and children under our Constitution. We have to accept, particularly in our society, that women are often marginalized and face greater challenges due to social, family, and economic factors which hampers their ability to speak up or fight for their rights or access to justice when they need help. For many, it is a struggle, big struggle, to get to the cases, to the courtroom. The struggle escalates when the cases proceed in court. Hence, the need to be sensitized is to the issue. Do not make such cases lightly. Instead, consider it as an opportunity to do the needful so that justice is rendered. As we know, when these cases come to the court, it is fundamental for the judges to listen and to understand the voice of the victim. It is equally vital to organize and build safeguards for the victim of such crimes so that they are not re-victimized by the system. Law by themselves cannot and do not safeguard rights. It is through the system of justice that the rights are declared and protected. The role of a judge is therefore critical. I do not need to remind anyone that a judge in the process of administration of justice must be impartial, fair, and above all sensitive. In my experience, the biggest and the foremost role of the judge is to listen. This at times is an onerous task. However, as a master of your own court, one has to learn to listen to understand the issues at hand. What I have understood by gender sensitization is the realization that men and women at times require different treatment to achieve similar results due to the different experiences in life, in living life. It means recognizing that men and women have different roles, different life conditions. Consequently, the impacts are different. As judges, we create and ensure equality before the law by recognizing and appreciating these differences. Gender equality therefore means big, fair, and the measure for fairness is the ability to give equal value to the similarities and differences and the varying role men and women play. Another important role of the judge is to ensure that the dignity of any person in the courtroom is maintained. Even in criminal courts, where an accused is convicted, he or she must leave the court with the dignity up front. In the context of the topic of this conference, a judge must ensue, especially in cases where the victim is a woman or a child and she is treated with respect and that the general environment of the court is conducive to her being able to tell her story without any fear or shame, and the court is conscious of her difficulties and miseries and does not burden her with a feeling of despair. The competence and consciousness with which the role is fulfilled is the most effective way to uphold the rule of law. Gender bias, gender insensitivity is an unfortunate truth. The fact that we all gather here from around the country and the world testifies to this fact that we are mindful and determined to be responsive. Access to justice for women in cases of violence or even for the enforcement of their basic rights is difficult, and there are hurdles making her vulnerable simply on account of her gender. Improving access means ensuring her safety, considering her health and physical condition, understanding the mental agony, and the most importantly, ensuring that she is heard and justice is served. Seeking justice for gender-biased violence in itself can leave